Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to tonight's. Let's switch off the battle music. Welcome to tonight's episode of Tavern Talks, where we're going to be talking about alignment. So, yeah, that's all I got. I'm Jonesy, Dungeon Master for our Eberron campaign, and also Gloob in our Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign. And these fine folks around me are...
As I am
Not
here on the
everybody wants.
normal. I'm Ian. I am Gandalwin in our Eberron campaign, and I'm the DM for our Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign that just started. Yay!
And I am Brittany. I play Kaushik in our Eberron campaign.
And her first time on Tavern Talks. Yay!
Woo!
Yay. I am incredibly grateful and nervous to be here.
I need to fix your camera here. There we go.
Camera.
The camera was
Oh.
looking a little bit out of bounds. All right, so like I said, we're going to be talking about alignment, morality, ethics, all that good stuff tonight, and what it means as far as your character's actions, their outlook, demeanor. So with this topic, we're obviously going to be getting into stuff that's going to be beyond D&D. It's going to be a lot more philosophical in nature, and we will kind of delve into some, I guess, common character actions and sort of tropes like murder hobos and what have you, and kind of where we're going to put them on the on this sort of 9 squared grid that Wizards has been so kind to give us to sort of confine ourselves with.
I mean, is there really any debate where murder hobos fall on the alignment chart?
Well,
like,
we'll get there.
Realistically, okay.
We'll get there.
Yes.
You can have the chaotic good murder hobo, right?
Can you? I would
No, you can't.
I don't think you can.
The answer is no.
I think they're kind of pigeonholed, by definition, like murder hobos. Anywho,
so let's start off with, I guess, what alignment is and sort of what it's played in games that you've played in before. Brittany, I know you've had sort of the singular experience with D&D before with our campaign, but I mean, I think our campaign has a lot of great examples where people have played to their alignment or shown parts of their alignment, maybe even transgressed over what they have on paper. But either of you guys take it off with, I mean, what is alignment, I guess? Give your best definition.
I mean, I think that the alignment is it's just putting a general label on what, like, morally and ethically where your character stands, because alignment is kind of a combination of both their morals and their ethics, right? Because of the fact that you can be lawful good, but you can also be lawful evil. Like, there's two halves. It's combining both your ethics and your morality, and just putting it under that broad label so that it's easier for you as the player to kind of look at that and use that as like a guidepost for a lot of how your character behaves,
right,
to specific situations. And it's like more useful the farther away from how it is like that you would act, because it's always easy to know how you would react to a situation, but when you're trying to, like, okay, I gotta play my character as their character,
right, getting in that mindset. I think we probably need to start off with, I mentioned the tool earlier. I'll go ahead and bring it up so the people that are watching the stream in the YouTube video can see what we're talking about. Anybody listening to the podcast unfortunately won't be able to see, but if you're no stranger to D&D, this grid will not be any news to you. Oh god, is lawful always on the left? Why does that bother me so much? No, chaotic's on the left. What?
I think I usually see it as lawful on the left.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as I've seen it, it's always been lawful on the left, lawful, neutral, chaotic.
Really? That irks me for some reason.
And then good, neutral.
Yeah, the top to bottom
Evil.
makes sense to me. Yeah, anyways. So this is kind of that tool we're talking about, sort of the nine squares that D&D gives you to sort of put yourself in. You choose this at level 1. I would say most of the time. This is something you do when you create your character, but I think when you do that, you have to you have to go off of character tendencies, because your actions, alignment's all about action to me. It's, you can say one thing all day every day, and you can say your character is this way, but if their actions don't enforce that, you're playing yourself, and what you have written on paper doesn't mean much, at least not to me as your DM. If you're telling me, I'm a lawful good person, then you're just you're murder hoboing everywhere, or you're robbing people left and right, and obviously that's not true. But this tool, so on our left we have our lawful alignments. So I guess we probably need to get into the definitions of these polar opposites that we have here: law versus chaos and good versus evil. Either one of y'all want to take a stab at defining those like huge terms? No?
Brittany? No? Okay. Lawful, I think, well, and I think I've got a decent handle on lawful because of talking about it in relation to evil characters. But lawful is generally speaking, as far as I understand it, used to say, well, that your character has a code of conduct of some kind. Like, there are rules that they abide by, like if it's some kind of honor system, or it is actual laws, or if it's the rules that they've just set for themselves morally, or if they're like a part of some kind of group. Like it is a fairly rigid set of rules, generally speaking, that they abide by in their actions.
What about the opposite end of that with chaos?
And chaos, like you said, is like it's the polar opposite. They just, and you would think with alignment that this is just how it goes for all the time, but you just kind of do what you want, like at all times. It's like whatever strikes your fancy, generally speaking, and that is tinged like what that, like it's chaos, right? It's just you go, ooh, I like that shiny thing, take shiny thing, or I don't like this guy, stab, slap, hit, whatever. Like you don't think before you act. It's not like there's no buffer between your desires and your actions. They just kind of it just bleeds all together all in one.
Right. Impulse
general take on chaos.
Just
exactly.
Yeah, sort of losing all of these boundaries, any sort of law, regardless of whether that's. So I think it's interesting that you talk about the chaos in D&D, and you'll go to the like primordial chaos, and you'll see elementals in themselves are just considered chaos, just because there's no boundary there. It's all about natural happenings and just at a whim sort of thing. So
right, exactly. So I think that's actually a much easier distinction between lawful and chaos, is that lawful actions tend to be metered and considered before you take to them, while chaos is going to be your immediate impulse, your immediate reaction to an event, and working off of that.
Right. And that, I mean, metered and considered doesn't necessarily, and this we got kind of how we transition to good versus evil here.
Correct.
Your code doesn't necessarily mean it holds up any sort of righteous code. Your code could, I only kill babies younger than 3. Like, that is still a code at the end of the day, as extreme of an example as that is, just to illustrate it.
Right.
Don't look at me like I'm crazy, Brittany.
He's right. It's a very hyperbolic example, but it's true. Well, it's because it's so much easier to talk about lawful alignments in relation to good, when it does apply to, you do have lawful evil characters, and a lot of people, I don't think they don't really consider, they just kind of lump them together as like, evil's evil, which is not the case.
Right.
That it is easy to do, because playing that distinction is a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people who play a lawful evil character have probably one of the hardest alignments in D&D, because just of people's poor perception of what evil is. Like they just think it's doing at a whim, and that's the chaos part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing at a whim is the chaos part of it, and they just think, whatever I want to do, you know, regardless of how cruel it is to somebody. But that's not lawful evil, but we can dive into that. What about the good versus evil part of it? How would you
Brittany?
define good, evil? No.
No. All right. Good. I mean, I'd say the easiest way to break them down is like into similarly one-worded definitions. I think would generally be a lot more along the lines of selfless and selfish. Those are both very, like, even though they're not all encompassing over those parts of the alignments, they are easy starting points.
Dude, I was
Because
gonna say the exact same thing. Like, yeah, 100%.
it's just there's such an it's the easiest place to start because at its base, somebody who is of a good alignment will do selfless acts because they're inherent, like they're the good guys, they're the heroes, they do things for the people and also motivation. Good alignments are a lot more likely to do things not motivated by a reward. Right, like there may be a reward offered, but they're not gonna go, I'll go grab your kid out of the burning building, but only if you give me $50.
Yeah.
Whereas an evil person may still do the act, they may still go save the person out of the burning building, but it's only gonna be if the person gives them the $50, and if the $50 aren't offered, sucks. There's no gain.
We should have come up with some more nuanced examples before.
Lots of children getting hurt in these situations.
Your husband, your wife, whoever.
Children are innocent. They don't fall on the alignment chart. That's why we use them as examples.
They are true neutral at all times, and like they don't get in alignment. But it's easier to give examples that are extreme because they really get your point across. But it could be anything else. It's like, oh well, my dog's lost. Can you help me find it? It's like, yeah, well, I'll do it if you pay me. But whereas a good person is a lot more likely to go, oh yeah, sure. And if they get offered a little bit extra money at the end, great. But that's not why they did it. They did it because it was like the nice thing to do. A lot more of your actions as a good aligned character are going to be informed by kindness and empathy, whereas evil characters, it's all about self-interest and what does performing this task do for me. You can still have evil characters that do heroic things, but they're not doing them for heroic reasons. They're doing it because it's going to further you. It is in some way helping you. It is furthering your individual goals.
Yeah, your individual interests. I think I may have hopped on the selfless versus selfish train a little bit. Selfish, I agree with. I think evil at its base definition is selfishness. It is personal goals ahead of everything, whether that's a shared goal or not. However, I don't think every selfless deed is necessarily a good deed, as I could sacrifice myself for an evil deity or whatever the case is to further an evil deity's goals, right? So I don't necessarily think that selfless may be the right word for good.
I do also want to point out that I don't feel like every selfish act is an evil deed. I feel like there are selfish acts that can be for the greater good for everyone as well. But
do you have an example of what you're talking about?
No.
And like I said, I wasn't throwing those out there as like the be all end all, but I think the selflessness and selfishness are easy jumping points for like for ways to get around to talking about those things. There's most definitely I don't think it's necessarily even the rule, and it's not like selfishness in good characters is the exception or the other way around. But they're easy ways to jump to and from at like a base level. Like you said, evil is a lot of the times inherently going to be selfish, a lot of, if not quite the majority of good acts, a lot of times can fall under the selflessness.
Right. Yeah,
that category. Not all encompassing, but I think it's a solid reference point.
It's like that every square is not a rectangle. Is that the way it goes? So every rectangle's a square, but every square is not a rectangle, something like that.
Right. Yeah, similar to that, yeah.
Every evil deed is a selfish deed, but not every selfish deed is an evil deed? Is that what we're trying to say?
I'd say, and you can go the other way around. Like, it's the same thing. Or not even necessarily the same thing, because not every good deed is necessarily a selfless deed. But
Right.
it's a lot easier to slap hard like things onto evil onto evil, because you can technically do things like be selfless in the service of evil to like a higher evil power, but
Right.
it's very much getting into like a lot of the minutia of the exactness of your deeds or the exactness of what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at its core, I'd agree with that. Evil being selfish. I mean, I I know you struggle with an example there, Brittany, but I can't think of I, unless you were thinking for the greater good. You're thinking about your personal interest there, and maybe you're thinking about like personal health. Maybe like I need to withdraw myself from this situation, and that may seem like a selfish act, but not necessarily evil. Is that kind of where you're going with it? That was
I
crazy.
have an example, but my example is stupid. So
I've talked
and
about killing 3-year-olds. Like,
okay.
Give your example.
Thanos.
right?
Where he wanted to get rid of half of the people in the universe, or half of the living creatures in the universe, in order to exactly
It's
in
not.
order
It's not dumb. Like
in
it's
order
there's part of his.
to
I'm
make
waiting
it a better
on the
place.
punchline for this one. Keep going.
No, you know his whole goal was the reason that he was doing it is so that finite resources didn't run out as quickly. And so that the people that were still in existence after he snapped half of them out of existence would live a better life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's an example. But the reason I said it's stupid is because it's still a very inherently evil deed.
Well, it's an evil deed, but it's also
But it
he
wasn't.
felt like he
It
was
wasn't
being
selfish.
selfless.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
because he does multiple times talk about how he has sacrificed so much and he gave up so much, right? Like he
Right.
felt like he was taking, all, like it was costing him so much to do this greater good for the universe. So he definitely felt like he was being selfless.
Hey, what's
Right.
going on,
Which is where
TVK?
And I think that's hi Thomas. I think that's the thing when it comes to alignment and morality is that it how you play your character depends on what you view as being good or evil or like moral or immoral. So like I know there are specific things that are deemed these things are good to do and these things are bad to do, like killing half of the universe is a bad thing to do. But if your character doesn't believe that's a bad thing to do, then your character doesn't believe they're an evil character.
Yeah, but putting your alignment on your character is not your character's view of themselves. It is you, their creator's view. So you could
Right.
play Thanos and you could go, "Oh yeah, he's lawful evil," like TVK is saying. Like you could say, "Yeah, he's lawful evil." He can 100% in his heart believe. Yeah, nobody really believes they're evil except for people who are out here like mustache twirling. Who are like, "Ha ha ha, I'm going to destroy the world," for no other reason than because they wanna. Like no interesting character really believes they're evil.
Yeah, I think you're kind of that's a slippery slope to get on with characters like that. I'm glad we're bringing in character examples too, because I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think that's a very good idea to use for
that's a
examples.
slippery slope as far as rationalizing evil actions with good results. Um, and the point I will bring up is since I see the boy himself is in chat, so I'm not going to talk about you behind your back, Spoons. I'm going to talk to you to your face. Oh,
Exactly.
I'm quiet. I will turn myself up.
I was fully prepared to come into this talking about him behind his back, but now that he's awake, the gloves are off.
No,
I
I wouldn't
mean,
do that. Spoons, let me
we
know
are
if
gonna
that's
put
better.
everybody on the alignment chart.
Yeah, we're gonna put everybody on the alignment chart from our Eberron campaign. Unfortunately, Ghost of Saltmarsh characters haven't done enough.
We have had one session.
Yeah, we had one session, but we will come back to this at a later date to do it for them as well.
The closest thing we've got to evil in the Ghost of Saltmarsh so far is Jakob just immediately calling the bar owner the bar wench. So,
Bar wench.
Right.
right.
Yeah, and he's already gonna call it out. But speaking of, in our Eberron campaign, Gorham had a moment where he had someone subdued. Him and his party had someone subdued, completely restrained, could not do anything. Gorham was asking him questions. The guy was being less than compliant with him. So Gorham decided to take the action of crushing this man's hand in the what was that?
I said hammer.
Oh, I thought I heard someone say crunch.
I also said crunch. Yes,
oh, okay. All right. I thought so. I was like, man, the memory sticks with me. But Gorham crushed this guy's hand in order to get these answers up. And this is, I think that's part of it. You can't Captain Crunch. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think you get in a really slippery slope of saying these people had good intentions, because Gorham's intentions for this guy were to get answers so he could possibly save other lives, which that is
that's not necessarily true, though, to be fair, because he's questioning him because he was connected to Eberron.
Correct, which he thinks
so,
could end more lives.
Is that why he's after Eberron?
Yes.
I was under the impression the entirety of the reason he's after Eberron is for justice for Malgrim's father. It has nothing to do with stopping him from doing other things.
Correct. These things aren't mutually exclusive. He is a paladin of vengeance, and he is seeking him out for a grudge. The second thing is also that Gorham views this guy as a constant and everlasting threat. Me and Spoons have talked about this a good bit. He views this guy as most Americans would view Osama bin Laden in the height of his power. I got you. That he would continue hurting and killing other people. So ultimately, the deed that he did, the action that he took, was not a good action. And I think Gorham's alignment would slightly shift for me there. Being a lawful good character on the character sheet, that's where it backslides for me. So I think
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think when you get into the rationalizing part of it, is Thanos snapped everybody out of it, half of population out of existence for a good cause. That's where you're getting into a point of, all right, well, where do we stop it? I mean, why not 75%? So, I mean, as the argument against Thanos thing, like, it would last longer. If he snapped it down to 10%, I mean, some entire planets could be wiped out. Their populations could be wiped out, giving extra people to live.
10% is not perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Still an evil act, and there's no.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody said it wasn't. I think that's one of those things where it comes into perspective, where it's like, okay, well, your character's perspective on their actions is not relevant to their alignment. The alignment is what is you the player. That is the label you put on them. That the way they view their actions is not relevant. And that is part of the problem. Is alignment is hard because it's trying to deal with a complicated thing. Morality and ethics are not simple, and it's trying to simplify it. It's trying to put it into 9 different boxes and say that is the entirety of morality and ethics.
And that's what I wanted to bring up when it came to Gorham in general, is like the fluidity of morals and like ethics in character. Like this is the way his situation went. This guy tried to kidnap Koshik, so I'm gonna smash his hand to get information, but I'm not gonna lie to the guards about it, and I'm gonna sit in jail until it's time to serve my trial, until a crooked cop gives me a deal to break in and steal something from someone. But then I'm not gonna let my party murder this guy who poses like a super big risk to our safety and our freedom, because murder is wrong. Now, that's what you would consider selfish, selfless. So I don't think that necessarily changes his alignment. And like you said, it is a slippery slope, and it like wavers a bit, but I don't think any of the things that he did makes him necessarily more or less chaotic or evil or anything like that. I think he still seems to be a lawful character, at least. Now, am I going to say good? Perhaps not. I don't know. That's not for me to decide. That's for Gorham to decide, because it's hard. That's why I don't like alignment, because I feel like alignment puts you too much in a pigeonhole, and it's hard to express the natural fluidity of ethics and morals, like in real life, because everybody that's playing their characters is gonna to an extent, play their characters as a person because we're all people playing characters. And so in your mindset, it's hard to separate you as a human being and what you think is good and moral, even like a tiny bit from your character. So.
Right, but it's an average sum of deeds, right? It is all of the actions that Gorham has taken thus far have averaged out and put him somewhere on this chart. The fluidity is factored in there. Just because there's only 9 squares here doesn't mean you can't put a 1,000 square grid in between them, and with each action move them down or to the right or down and to the left, up and to the right. There can be movement within here. I think that Gorham's actions, there is fluidity in morality. Always is, especially when it comes to self-interest. But that's where you're going to get into the rationalizing things of, he took that deal, 1, because again, he wanted the information that could stop Eberron, and 2, he was in jail, and being back with his party could do more good for the world, right? And then on the flip side of that, of this same thing, I think we need to allow some character growth there in between the exact moment he decided to smash his hand and before, when he thought that would be a good action or an acceptable action, all the way through the night of sitting in jail and to where you guys had that conversation in the house where he realized people are going to kill this man if I leave him here. And there's got to be some room for character growth there.
Right, and like heat of the moment decisions, because after sitting in jail and reflecting on it, Gorham was upset with himself about smashing his hand, just like heat of the moment decisions where in the alleyway Kaushik wanted to kill Aelin, but later, which Gorham was yelling at her about wanting to kill him, she had changed her mind because they had started formulating a plan about leaving him, like letting him go later on when they're further away from the town where he couldn't immediately go back and blah, 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 blah. But
I don't think that plan was amply clear to anybody. I'm not, me as the DM, you guys were discussing that, but I sincerely sympathize with Gorham in that situation. We need to wrap up this. We'll talk about it all night.
Oh, sorry. I also think Gorham did have a lot more information than us that he did not give to us, because he didn't tell us anything that Aelin said to him about when he was under the truth spell or whatever. Whenever he was saying he wasn't going to go back to the guards and like he would come back if he'd send him back, etc.
To be fair, everybody jumped down his throat immediately. Kaushik yelled at him. And Gandalf stormed out of the house with a sword in his hand looking to murder him.
Of course I yelled at him.
So he didn't have
What was I supposed to do?
I will speak in the defense of there being the confusion about letting him go. Gandalf never intended to let him live.
Right. I don't think
there was never a point in time.
I don't think Crowley did. I think
Crowley definitely did. I don't think Crowley wanted to kill him. Crowley was the one who presented the plan to let him go later on. Wasn't he?
No.
Am I mistaken?
I don't think so. I don't think Crowley ever input.
He did. He said, we need to ask him questions on the edge of town is where we need to do it. I think that implied that, Gorham, if you're going to get answers from this guy in whatever manner you're going to get answers from, you need to do it out here. I think Crowley was implicit with whatever happened to Aelin happened to Aelin. Now,
I think everybody was kind of expecting more torture to happen.
Right.
So.
Yes. I think that is true as well.
Right.
That's fair.
But Crowley was going to let what happened happen. Kaushik had already attacked him with magic nonetheless.
I just wanted to hurt him.
Yeah, but that wasn't, again, you want to talk about something that hadn't been said.
Heat of the moment decisions.
Heat of the moment decision. You attempted to hurt him. Gandalf ready to put the man out of his misery. I mean,
he wasn't currently suffering. There was no misery.
I think Melgrim would have been a standby. Melgrim would have gone with whatever his brother said to do. Maybe it talked about him later, or not maybe said to do, but intended to do, it would have happened, and then maybe had a quiet conversation later. And Artyom was the only one that I felt would be completely against it, like Gorham was at the time. And Milo was, I think, too drunk and not even really paying attention to the situation at that point.
We're dangerously swerving off topic.
No, I think it's a really good example of what pops up as far as good and good and evil.
Let me reiterate. We're skipping ahead. I think that entire situation is a very good reference point for when we're trying to place everybody.
Yeah.
Unless you
100%.
want to do it now.
100%. 100%. Well, I mean, what else do we have to talk about here? Granted, we kind of ignored neutral, but
I mean, I was gonna go more like say more along the lines of kind of like we said, give some example, like what are some examples of certain alignments reactions to a given situation, like because that's because as we keep saying, people have a big misunderstanding of evil,
right.
especially when it comes to like the lawful flavor. What are some examples of what is lawful evil, what is lawful good, what is lawful neutral, etc.
Like
what
makes
culture
pop culture references as the
those are always good ones.
Okay, do we want to start at the top, go lawful good?
Sure.
Because you're gonna
Top
have to
left
give me
corner.
some time if we're gonna think off examples off the top of my head. Lawful good, classic, no alteration Superman. He's a boring ass character, always will be. Terrible character design, but he is lawful good.
Absolutely. He follows his very like that super strict code of conduct that he got growing up in was it Kentucky, Kansas? Where did he live? Where's he from?
Kansas.
Kansas.
Smallville, Kansas. I don't remember.
I don't know that place. Michael Carpenter from Joseph Files is also an incredible example because he's a holy man, but he is like actually abides by those things. But out of references that are going to be universally understood, Superman is super worth it. Though I will say that there's a little more. If you say he's like Superman is not the only example of lawful good though, because he is a Boy Scout, right? Because you can technically do things that like you can kill people and be lawful good. Because if it's in the name of justice and falls on the line, like in that line of your rules and code of conduct, and they are legitimately evil, it's still a lawful good action.
Where would you put Batman? Would he be lawful good or lawful neutral? Because he doesn't kill, right? Not on purpose. Or would he be like chaotic?
Depends on the Batman you're talking about.
That is very true.
Because old Batman,
Dark Knight Batman.
Dark Knight Batman.
Dark Knight Batman trained with a league of assassins.
Yeah.
And was at least kind of tempted towards their organization, even though he ultimately decided against it.
He's also a millionaire or billionaire in a city that's just squalor
absolutely
and homelessness, like
drowning in corruption and and poverty.
And he's of the elite.
So where are you gonna put him?
Where would I put
lawful evil?
I'd give him lawful neutral, maybe.
Yeah, that one's difficult for me.
I feel like neutral is a good place, wherever you put it on there, neutral is a good place for him because he is relatively morally ambiguous, I think.
Well, it's because he's morally ambiguous, but he does have a code of conduct most of the time. That once again depends on which Batman you're looking at, right?
Yeah, I think I'd have to put him
there are Batmans that use guns. They exist. But
Batman.
Versions of Batman that just kill straight up, like old Batman.
Right, yeah.
Old Batman just
because that was that's at that point. Like that's at that point where it's like he had been doing it for such a long time that he was tired and cynical and was like, fuck it.
That's where
this is the easiest way to get the job done.
Liam Neeson is very tempting. Did we
talking about towards
like the actor himself?
we gotta put Liam Neeson on.
Where would you put Liam Neeson on the alignment?
I don't know enough about
Liam
Liam
like
Neeson.
that.
I don't either.
He's also rich, so he would immediately go into the evil category, right?
But oh man, if we're still trying to keep it in general order, who's a good example of neutral good?
Who's his character in Batman Begins? I don't know if I've
watched
that movie. Oh, okay.
He's the leader of the League of Assassins, which I believe was what old James was referencing, saying that when I said he was tempted towards it, he was tempted by Liam Neeson.
Neutral good. So no one that really
no worries,
strays
James.
towards any alignment, not necessarily goes towards all of their whims, but keeps a typical good. The neutrals are hard for me because
It's because it's very vague.
yeah.
Not very hard lined at all.
Do y'all have any just good people in general, like pop culture wise, that scream?
Let's try to place the Avengers. Would you place them all in the same spot? I don't think I'd place them all in the same spot. I think I would place like Peter Quill in Chaotic Good,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's fair.
I'd also place Tony Stark in Chaotic Good.
Would you?
Yeah, dude, the
I
dude
would
definitely
say,
serves his
Oh, there
impulses,
was.
but he's an overall good guy.
I would say he's neutral good. That's actually
Really?
one I would put in neutral good. Yeah, because he's not necessarily chaotic. It's not what serves his every whim. He does have.
I guess he does. He will stop and consider and has like he will occasionally serve a code of some kind.
James says that Thor is Chaotic Good as well.
Yeah, I mean Captain America, obvious lawful good there.
Yeah, super like has his rules. Yeah,
Right.
See, those
Except
are-
for when it comes to Bucky. He makes exceptions.
Well,
for
part
Bucky.
of
we
that.
talked
To
about
be
the
fair, part of
exceptions
that.
to the rules earlier.
Yeah, like people make exceptions to the rules, and to be fair, Bucky is also not necessarily making an exception because he felt like he was being unjustly prosecuted.
That is true, and I didn't say it would change his alignment. I was just pointing out there what.
Yeah, I'd say it's a slight bending of his rules, but I think there was also like, as somebody who totally was like, nah, Iron Man should have killed him. Like, as somebody who's 100% in that camp personally, he definitely was going with the well, they're going to not even consider the fact that he was being brainwashed at the time, so it's not his fault really. Like,
Right.
Now TBK get started on it, man. That's what we're here for.
that's the whole point.
You got that whole chat. Go ahead.
Where would you guys put Hulk?
I don't. Hulk or Bruce? I think they'd go in two different places.
I think Hulk has to be chaotic at some point. I'd say chaotic neutral at best.
Yeah.
Because one of the only things that keeps him reined in is his out. Yeah, see, TVK knows what's up. It's because he Hulk smash, and the only people who have like really know Bruce or even Hulk can keep him on lock when he's hulked out. Because otherwise, and he just pretty without regard to what's going on around him, use his entire environment to fight whatever he's fighting, regardless of consequences.
Yeah, I think Hulk specifically, we'll get to Bruce in a second, but I think Hulk is chaotic neutral at his best.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
With tendencies towards chaotic evil. Hulk alone, not necessarily in the Avengers MCU universe, but Hulk by himself is chaotic neutral with chaotic evil tendencies.
Right. He's on the he's much closer to chaotic evil if you're in that 1,000 square box of chaotic neutral. He's falling down there, but because that's how Hulk conceptually serves his base impulses. Right, which makes him inherently more selfish.
Yeah.
And since his only emotion really, his overriding ruling emotion is rage, hits things he's mad at, smashes things that make him upset, it just does things.
Especially if you go back to the Edward Norton Hulk, again outside of the MCU. That wasn't part of the MCU, right?
Technically, Edward Norton is MCU.
Oh, well. Before Bruce.
Yeah.
Oh god, I can't remember his name. Current Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, not Mark.
Because the Edward Norton Hulk was a lot more smash. And honestly, the Mark Ruffalo Hulk started off relatively more smash, but then once he became Professor Hulk.
Well, because Professor Hulk is the ideal mixture of having Bruce's personality and intelligence and self-control,
right?
But having Hulk's.
Professor Hulk
massive
just
strength.
ruins all the depth of the character, so let's not even address that.
Professor Hulk is kind of lame.
My apologies.
Yeah,
Professor
Hulk
he says
kind of lame.
TBK says Bruce is lawful neutral. He feels I would put him in neutral good. That's interesting.
Same. That's what I was gonna say.
That would probably be my neutral good Avenger is Bruce.
Yeah, because he doesn't really have rules. He's just generally a good guy.
Well, I think he's fucked up, like he knows he has, with what he was going for, but at the end of the day, he does his best to channel it in a good direction, you know.
Right.
So I mean, I think just being a part of the Avengers, I think is that sort of shows that step that he's trying to channel what his fuck up in a good direction.
Right. And I will not even lie and pretend like I'm super familiar with Bruce Banner as a whole because I don't read comics. So,
Right.
like, I'm sure there's plenty more examples of, if you are really well versed with the comics, of stuff that you can use to kind of help you place Bruce.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We can throw another couple of MCU characters on there that would be a little bit tougher, like Wolverine, or like Logan Wolverine. Where would you put him on the alignment chart?
Chaotic neutral.
yeah,
Really?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The dude willingly worked for, or not, like he's done some things that are not great of his own volition without a ton of regret.
And still
So-
does. I mean, he
And
does.
still
That's why
does.
it's weird that y'all put him in neutral. I was thinking more like neutral evil, less than chaotic.
I wouldn't say I don't think he's evil, because he also does plenty of things that are for
I
the.
don't think he's
for the good.
chaotic.
Do you not?
No.
Also,
Unless I'm mistaken with Ian's definition of chaos earlier, it was impulse decisions.
right.
I feel like more than impulse decisions, at least later on in the series, I guess is what I'm looking at, like actual, like the movie Logan. I feel like more than impulse decisions, he carefully thought out the things that he needed to do.
Wasn't
Right,
Logan
but
old
that's
Wolverine?
really one iteration of him, though.
And he was oh, okay, yeah, you're right. That's what I'm looking at. My bad.
I mean, wasn't Logan old Wolverine too? Like this,
Yeah,
this was him at the
Yeah.
near the end of his life. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like
Shut up,
using old
Jonesy.
Batman to completely put Batman, because old Batman killed people.
yeah,
Whereas, like, I think, and it's because that was a lot more pragmatism and practicality of, like, well, what's really going to get the job done at this point. And kind of same thing for Wolverine when he's old, is like at that point in Logan, he couldn't really he couldn't afford to make rash and impulse decisions as much, because his healing factor wasn't really working, or not nearly as well. Like, it was much more painful to just move around. Like, all of his past impulse decisions and younger self decisions had caught up to him.
Yeah. But that's another thing I have a question about. Do you think that with growth like that, your alignment can change?
Yeah, alignment shifts
100%.
absolutely.
Okay.
like I said earlier, like even though there's only 9 squares here, like you can divide this up into a 1,000-point grid where it moves with each action. And I think it's just an aggregate sum of deeds. A lot of people try to repent at the very end. A lot of really evil people try to repent at the very end when they know,
Death is imminent.
Yeah, like, and I think Logan is no exception to that. So I think that you'll see people try to make those steps up to good, mostly out of fear of the unknown. But
Right.
the alignment can absolutely change.
Yeah, this again, I think maybe falls a bit into me not knowing so much about the mechanics of D&D, because I didn't know if your actual alignment on paper that you have, regardless of what we talked about with exceptions earlier, could completely change. Like, you could start off lawful evil and then end the campaign as chaotic good on paper. So 100%. I wasn't sure if that was a thing.
Cool.
I
mean, I don't know if there's like exact rules and mechanics for alignment changing. That's a lot more of the fluid, and it's because of how vague alignment is. You can't associate numbers with it, really. Is that it falls much more into the storytelling aspect of D&D, and so they're just like, it's up to your table and your DM.
It's interesting that you say that, because there are things in D&D. 3.5 had a lot more examples. 5e still has some. There are items in this game that can shift your alignment. They will change you from immediately to lawful evil if you attune to them, or something like that.
I've seen some of those. Yeah, but those also tend to be intelligent items. and they
He
also
could
tend to
be-
be
Oh, yeah, they're
really, really
huge.
powerful. Like they're super powerfully magic items that, like, they're artifacts of gods that are like, what's one of them as an example without like getting too into it. There's a super good guy sword. It's like the sword of something starting with a Z. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Right.
But it is basically like you are the super good guy, and it technically won't even attune to you unless you are already. I can't remember if it says if you're already good or if it chooses to. Basically, it can choose whether to attune to you or not. And when you attune to it, it immediately hard shifts you from whatever your alignment is now to lawful good, completely
like the
and
sword,
utterly.
like the sword in the Dresden fight. Well, I guess it didn't really
Those
change
don't.
Dresden
Yeah,
to
those
lawful
don't.
good, but
Those
still.
don't shift your alignment. Not really.
But it didn't.
but-
It wouldn't have worked for him unless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, for exactly, the power don't work unless you're already a certain amount of good. And if you're already that amount of good and you attune to it, it forces you to lawful good, and then it also changes some of your personality traits. Like you are a different person after you pick up this weapon.
Wow.
Like full stop, you don't get a choice.
Right. I think on the opposite spectrum of that, you have, I believe it's the Book of Vile Darkness in 5e, that if you attune to it and you read it and you try to go through it and comprehend the pages, that it switches your alignment. Like full stop, you are lawful evil now without stop, like
right.
without issue.
Spoon said he doesn't know about 5e, but in older editions, if you went against your alignment enough, you would change alignments and lose a level.
Oh yeah, you could absolutely. It would be worse than a level sometimes. 3.5. Paladins were lawful.
Yeah,
good.
paladins, you had to be lawful good.
And if you didn't become lawful good, you lost every class feature that you had. You could not. You couldn't use spells. You couldn't use lay on hands. You had nothing as a paladin if you were not lawful good. It was the same as a monk. If you ever switched away from being lawful as a monk and you went to neutral or chaotic, you lost all of your monk abilities.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'd be so not have any monk powers. Granted, I didn't.
That
start
is
off with
wild. Well, I guess it makes sense. It's not that wild, but that's kind of wild.
They really. You also had to be religious. I think paladins had to be a devotee of a god, whereas they don't necessarily have to be in 5e. It's just your oath that grants you your holy powers.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like the warlock, right? It's not the being that grants the powers; it's the pact. Rules is written, so.
Right.
Warlocks are just shifty paladins. But yeah, in older editions there were a lot more instances of it. But I think in older editions it was a matter of crowd control. To be completely honest with you, I think a DM being able to shift someone's alignment and be like, all right, you're a paladin and you've killed 3 people without issue so far. I'm going to switch you to neutral and you are going to lose every single ability until you repent. I think that's what it was. Like, give the DM power to just strip a player's powers away until they redeem themselves and become good. But of course, that becomes unfun, right?
Yeah, it's unfun. It's restrictive
right.
to play, and so now it's a lot more. The onus is figure it out as the DM. Like, handle your players, which you're God. So I mean, you can do what you want. You can still find a way to strip them of their powers.
Yeah,
if you
100%.
really kind of want to teach them, if you want to teach them a lesson and be like, hey, you're being super evil right now. Guess what? Because especially if they do happen to be a paladin who's a devotee of a good god, like, all right, yeah, you go to use your lay on hands, it don't work, dog, and you go, or like, I hate to constantly use Critical Role as an example of stuff, but early on in season 1. Pike, a cleric of a super good god,
Sarenrae,
was being kind of brutal and malicious with some of their enemies in killing them, and her holy symbol cracked, and she also felt her connection to her god like wane a little bit, and so she didn't quite lose any of her powers. But Matt Mercer went very out of his way to make a point of you are not following your god, and you feel like if you keep doing this, you'll lose your connection to her entirely. Which is great storytelling. It's fun because people can fuck up. People are people. So it's nice to be able to do that and indicate you might be going a bad way with how your character's supposed to work and or play or the things that you said they believe in, without necessarily going full stop immediately loss of all your powers.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think you definitely have to be more creative in the newer editions, 5e specifically, when you have the paladin that wants to just murder. If you're not like an Oath of Conquest or something like that, something that is obviously intended to be evil. Like if you're a paladin of a lawful good god and you have lawful good on your character sheet, and then you just start crushing hands or just murdering people in shacks. I'm just messing with these students, but if you start doing these things, I think it's on the storyteller part now. And I think the way Mercer did it was pretty creative as far as just giving her that early warning sign that, hey,
right,
I'm gonna let you know that this isn't what your character is currently.
Right.
I'm gonna show you the direction you're going. And if you want to switch that up, that's fine. I like Brittany said, can you end up lawful good to chaotic evil? Absolutely. And if a player chooses that path, let them. But I think the indicators need to be clear, because I think the lack of communication would cause someone, when you say, all right, you're chaotic evil for this purpose, and they'll be like, what? No, I'm not. It's like, well, let's tally up all these actions here. Clear and concise communication and small things like that, like the breaking of the holy symbol, I just think is a good indicator of what path your character's choosing.
Right, absolutely. It's definitely a lot easier to do these kind of things when they are religious, in one way or another.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
or when they get their power from a higher source.
Right, who may tend towards good or evil or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
And that's why I've had so much trouble choosing an alignment for caution.
That's why go like I think a good way to do that is run through some of these maybe slightly hyperbolic scenarios or even simpler scenarios, like something that Cody sent out was like some questions for stuff to kind of help you get to know your character, is like if somebody, like, you guys are coming out of a bar, somebody like bumps into you and starts being like a total jackass, how does your character handle that situation? Like stuff like that. Like, will they only accept a job that will help somebody if they're going to get paid? Like going over a lot of these situations that may be hyperbolic or a little less so. Like, how do they generally react to situations? Do they tend to be a lot more just and righteous and rule following? Like somebody if a member of your party like breaks the law, how do you react to that after you know? Like, do you try to arrest them and bring them in because they stole, or do you just reprimand them? Or are you like, oh, good job, let's see how much this is worth? Like all kinds of stuff like that. Just run yourself through different scenarios of how they would react to situations. Those purely hypothetical ones.
Well, she's surely not lawful.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty true of the vast majority of our party in the Eberron game.
Yeah, that's.
I really think the only person who can get away with saying that they are lawful is Gorham.
Right.
Is James the Gorham. I don't think anybody can realistically get away with saying they're lawful other than that.
Hell, we're in the last, hour or whenever we end, and I think we can pull some examples from the campaign to bring up, and let's put them on this chart, shall we?
Sure.
Do you guys want to start with Gorham, the hot topic, or do y'all want to start with someone else?
I'm happy with whatever.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much already kind of placed Gorham, so we can start there.
Let's start there then. Let's place him. So who wants to go first?
Ian does, I think.
Sure. Let's see.
Them? We're gonna place them in
I
true
like
neutral.
it's either in the lawful good or lawful neutral territory, I'd have to say.
I'm leaning more towards lawful neutral, just because of things that have happened recently. Maybe you could you put it in the middle of the two? Can you put it like Right there in the
mean,
middle.
how about this? Since we said that the entire grid is not it's not one big square, that there are little squares, I'd say he's lawful good trending towards lawful neutral.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, because I feel like his actions have only trended more towards the neutral category as of late. I don't think.
Right.
What actions have trended toward neutral, do you think?
Hand smashing, accepting a deal from a crooked cop, breaking into someone's home and stealing from them.
Yeah, a bunch of rich people.
Just those actions.
Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, Ian's right. Maybe put him a little more close to good.
I mean, that's not necessarily serious. I have no idea whether those guys are good people or not. So, and I mean, that's not even necessarily a thing, because that's like, if you're in the good category, you might kill somebody for the right reasons, but torture is kind of universally accepted as being a kind of like really hard to maintain moral high ground with torture. So I'd say that would be the biggest one for me that trends towards the neutral slot.
Maybe not as widespread as you think. I read a philosophy book in college where a guy was arguing that we overvalue the short-term effects of pain and torture versus the long-term effect of just killing someone to death, because most people would agree it's better to kill someone than torture them. And he was saying that the short-term pain, as to like sticking a sterilized needle up under someone's fingernail, that was the example he gave, is less permanent than death. So just the point, I think torture is absolutely evil, 100% fucking horrible.
Yeah, well, it's because it comes
in,
because you also have the thing that, generally speaking, when you're torturing somebody like that for information, they tend to not survive after the fact, right? It's like,
right.
You know,
one leads to the other usually.
Yeah.
But
I mean, death doesn't usually lead to torture because they're already dead. But
I'm
just poking fun.
So
you know what we should do after we place everybody? We should go through everybody's answer to the trolley problem.
Oh man, you take the other one, you put it on the track with the other 5 people, and you run over all 5.
Kill them all.
Yeah. So here's what I would say for Gorham, considering his most recent actions. I would say his most recent actions don't move him more or less towards good or neutral, but move him more so towards chaotic than lawful. I think that's where the flexibility is.
You think it's more towards like chaotic good, or?
Yes, I think instead of putting him far left and in between these two, I would still mark Gorham as good, but closer to the right. Maybe not necessarily always in good, but maybe like 75%, maybe like right there, but can tend towards neutral grounds when it benefits his cause or the party. I think the accepting of the Orion mission speaks to that, because I don't think that necessarily Gorham sees, or most people would agree, that stealing is an outright evil act, and also the accompanying consequence with that of getting Aelin. And I also think that him standing up to the party lends to him being good as well, because he was very convinced that Aelin would not be long for the world, that Aelin would have been dead in that house had he stayed there much longer. And I also think that him letting him go at the end of it swings to him more towards neutral / chaotic ground than lawful, because he didn't consult the party, but it was the good thing to do. That's where I would put him. But I think we all agree that he belongs somewhere in this top left or ish quadrant. Somewhere.
I actually will slightly argue that letting him go isn't necessarily the good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did also do that for a selfish reason.
I will say that I don't think it's necessarily good pertaining to that Gorm isn't dumb. He knows the kind of work this guy does, and due to the conversation he had with him when that guy was under a spell that he could only tell the truth, he knows for a fact that this dude is not going to stop doing that job, and showed no regret over his actions or remorse or any intent to change. And so
Right.
I'd say it's more of an argument of he didn't kill him as it would have been a strain upon his own conscience.
I would have to say that Gorham's actions, for me, were good in the sense that he knew it was not that place and it was not these people being the party. It wasn't their decision to pass that judgment on him.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because you're talking about a death sentence was about to be passed on him. It was a torture to death or a death, or you're going to let him go, or as Kaushik was saying, you're going to let him go at a later location. At the end of the day, he was either going to be dispatched with permanently, or he was going to be let go. So I don't think Gorham's actions there stray him away from good in any way.
What I do ask though, actually, this is something I should have probably brought up earlier. What is the difference in that situation of if we killed him after we captured him versus that we just what's his name? The law guy.
The law guy.
Back in Flamekeep. The Templar of Law. I'm blanking on his name.
I don't know, man.
What's the difference? Yeah, what's the difference between us
Ragnar.
executing immediately, boot partying Ragnar, and executing him in the house?
Okay, but when Ragnar died, let's remember the situation. You were you did not have everything that was in that instance subdued to you. I necessarily think that executing Ragnar right there was a good deal? No, I don't. I don't think straight murdering someone is a good deed in any situation, except for the situation of self-defense, which you guys initiated, but you did rid the evil that was down there. If you do remember, Ragnar was the first one down. There were still two people actively attacking the party.
I know. I'm curious at what point is what is the situation? So it's simply because we had the power over to decide to not kill them that makes it good versus what makes it not good, or not necessarily not good, but what makes it worse. Because if we had killed him in the alley when he was first fleeing us instead of intentionally capturing him, if we had just said fuck it, run him down, would it be the same moral problem?
I think circumstances absolutely play into that, and I don't think the circumstance that y'all were in, fighting a demon and two minions versus one guy who was subdued in a house between all 7 friendlies, who was restrained and gagged, is remotely the same.
Okay, I was just curious because I feel it's a relevant point in distinction, because those are very frequent occurrences, especially in D&D, whether you've captured someone and are questioning them versus beforehand while you're in the midst of combat.
Right, that's a complete tonal shift, though. When you capture someone and the fight is over, then it's done. I think as far as good goes, you no longer have any supporting claim to protect yourself or your party if they're completely subdued.
Definitely did in this, I will say that is incorrect in this case, because dude told Gorm he would come back, so he knows he's still a threat.
Right. Well, yeah, he absolutely
situationally different, but yeah, I get what you mean.
He's a long-term threat, not an immediate threat. Circumstantial difference, right. I would say. Corsum says we should have made the image for that session: alien sitting on a sofa and the rest of the party standing behind the sofa with a Brazzers logo in the corner. Jeez.
Alien.
Alien.
I'm about to say alien. That was really throwing me off.
I was real confused for a second. Alien. Okay.
Yeah,
alien.
I got you. Okay. So we can mostly settle on kind of putting Gorm in that kind of lower corner, Maybe like lawful good with a little bit of neutral, a little bit of chaotic tendency.
Yeah.
Okay. I totally agree with that for the most part.
All right.
So who do you want to do next?
Ganondorf.
Gandalwin?
We don't have a Ganondorf. We're gonna do Gandalwin.
I think Ganondorf himself is actually pretty evil. I don't think there's anybody gonna argue with me on Ganondorf being evil.
Let's do Gandalwin's mother.
Oh shit. I don't know what. Oh man, I didn't put any thought into what my mother's
Chaotic
alignment
evil,
was.
and that's why
Y'all
she's
don't know
dead.
anything about her. All right. Where do we
Right.
put Gandalwin?
I will go
Ian,
since
lead
this
the
is my
way.
character. I will put out there that at character creation, I had initially put him down as chaotic good.
Do you think you've stayed there?
Trying to think, because a lot of the tendencies for his decision making aren't rooted in immediate situations. I would say so. I would say definitely purely on screen, tending towards chaotic neutral at best.
At best.
Probably.
What about at his worst?
That's like I said, purely on screen without any context for why he makes the decisions he does.
Right.
Which is why I said some things I do about Gorham, because I am not privy to any of the information that have passed between you and James.
Right.
So those make a lot of difference, because Cody said Milo kind of views Gandalf as like a violent sociopath, which can 100% be interpreted as fair, considered like with his interactions with him. He doesn't there's no context for his decision making. So I will say on screen, Gandalf is chaotic neutral at best. And yeah, he super did. Mm-hmm.
Super did kill a defenseless captive before. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, would you put him directly in the middle, chaotic neutral, no tendencies towards any side, more towards true neutral, more towards chaotic good, more towards chaotic evil? Or just
I'd say he's definitely solidly within chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Due to things like executing that guy
Mm-hmm.
at the first time, because he makes impulse, his decisions are impulse related for the most part. I trending towards evil or good. I don't know. I would like to say as his player towards good, but I don't know if that how anybody else feels with it. So.
All right, Brittany, let's hear your thoughts.
Chaotic neutral is a good spot for him. Whether it's leaning towards good or evil, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna leave him, for myself personally, smack dab in the middle of chaotic neutral.
I would put Gandalf chaotic neutral, tending towards chaotic evil. And I say that for a couple of reasons. His and Crosum's already talked about it. Killing the guy who was bound in the warehouse just out of chaotic anger, that's an evil act. No matter, especially with the granted, since we're talking about circumstances, Gandalf does not trust the Carnathi guards. You were in Reckonmark in Carnath. You didn't maybe trust them for the justice to happen to him, but Gandalf made that decision for him. He didn't show remorse. He was an absolutely evil guy. I mean, there's no qualms with that. The guy was absolutely evil and did not show remorse for what he did. But
I will say he has no regret for that at all whatsoever.
Yeah, right. But his
Does killing someone evil make you evil, though?
It was more of the fact that it was an execution and it was not like a heat of the moment fight. It was the dude was bound and decision. It was super purposeful, because the dude expressed zero remorse over what he had been involved in, as opposed to his buddy. And yeah, I think that was the big thing. That it was zero remorse, which was prodded on by the circumstance itself. It kidnapping homeless kids,
Right.
which may strike a chord,
Right.
perhaps.
And that's part of my reason is I think Ganowin's emotions make him tend towards evil things a lot of the time. I think when Ganowin makes decision, I mean, as chaotic as he is, that makes him tend towards the evil side. I don't think he's all the way there. I think ultimately he fights for some sort of, he tries to fight for something good with these people that he's with. But if he wasn't with them, I'm not so sure. I could absolutely see Ganowin getting involved with a group of bandits and taking things from rich people in Reckonmark. 100% could see it.
Okay, but that's not who he is, though. That's not what he's doing.
Right.
So I don't think you can base it off of that. If it's the sum of actions, those are not actions that he's taken.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, for sure. I think it just begs the question, though, that if Ganowin wasn't with this group, what would he be doing? But that's not, I mean, that's not what I'm basing off me moving him closer to evil for. He's killed a bound man, and the theft, the theft is completely for personal gain.
Apparently, Kent is getting an echo from me and Ian.
Oh, yeah. Probably because I had to introduce your source again. From Ian, though? I think it's just from Brittany. Should just be from Brittany.
Echo.
Let me know if that fixed it, guys. I think I muted Brittany, so it should be. It was with Ian for a second.
Am I still echoing? Okay.
No. Okay.
Big herd.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I forgot to mute her source in at the scene. But yeah, I think there are tendencies there. I'd like to see where it goes past this point. What decisions are made past this point, and for what reasons. But I think there are tendencies towards evil. Because if we want to define it as selfish, I think Ganowin is incredibly selfish and out of necessity is one thing I will say as well. Part of the way he was raised, being a street rat, tends to make you have to look out for number one. It's just in the way that it is. So that's what I would say.
I'll say, for the most part, the ends justify the means.
Right. That's why I would put you in. I'm not going to put you crossing the line into evil, but I will put you in the bottom right corner of chaotic neutral for me.
Fair enough.
All right, who's next?
Koshik, since she's also in here.
Let's do Koshik. Let's go.
Y'all go ahead, because I have no fucking clue. If I had to place her anywhere, it would probably be just smack dab in the middle of true neutral.
Okay.
But it's tough to place her with an alignment because she still doesn't know the kind of person she is.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of struggle because Koshik
That is what I was thinking as well.
sort of just found out not too long ago that she's not supposed to be this person she thought, right? Like, raised by an incredibly evil person, thinking she's doing things for the right reason and being brought up in this manner, like, and all of a sudden her world's just kind of flipped upside down. And what's the timeline there? The past couple of years?
Yeah, it's been about a year. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
1 year.
also a good comparison that James puts out in chat.
The Gamora complex. Yep.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's weird because I'm going to compare Koshik to Gloob in this sense. Is that I think that Koshik may not know some differences in good and evil, and I say that because I think Idril has raised her in a certain way where it is self-interest and it is self-divinity, and it is a lot of what she's been taught is in self-interest. So I think that a lot of her initial reactions, what she might do when she has those knee-jerk reactions, may tend towards evil.
My heat of the moments.
yeah, exactly. I think they may tend towards evil, but because of the way you're raised. Now, I also think there's a lot of conflict within you because you're like actively trying to feel that out. But any other opinions? Strong
Croson
opinions?
says from an outside perspective, you could argue, that she's doing all of these good things because strength in numbers and protection. That's not necessarily true, I'd say. I feel like I hadn't given a lot of backstory for Koshik, and so there's a lot of things that you and the rest of the party don't really know about her. But she is the reason that she left the situation she was in, being raised by such a bad person, is because she knows herself and knows that she is not that kind of person, and she doesn't want to be that kind of person. She's not doing all of these good things for protection. She didn't have to join the party in the first place for protection. The past year has been spent with her finding ways for her to be safe on her own. Was it in her best interest to join the party? Absolutely, but one of the reasons she decided to join this party was because of what they were fighting towards, which was finding all these kids that are being trafficked. It was a good thing that the side effect of doing this good thing is also being safe or being protected. So
no, I don't want to. I'm not trying to like negate your words as DM or anything, but a lot of the things we talked about beforehand, and without revealing a lot of your backstory or anything, were actions out of self-preservation. I think a lot of them were. So, and it sucks that we can't really get into a discussion about that without revealing everything about Koshik. So we can't talk about why she's making decisions. I think we need to talk about the decisions she's made on screen and go from there.
Yeah, we can talk about this after the stream if you don't mind, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure. So we're I mean, true neutral. Do you think that's a good place for her?
I don't know what direction I would put her leaning. I know she's not smack dab in the middle of true neutral. I know that's not where she belongs, but I don't know where she belongs.
I'd almost kind of say trending towards evil a little bit.
What would you say puts her there?
Because thinking about like how a lot of her actions have been a little more in the selfish camp. Especially thinking more recently.
That would trend her more towards chaotic than evil, right? Or no, selfish is evil. I forgot.
Because of and also maybe a bit towards the chaotic, with the like snap decisions to want to question Aelin in the alleyway. Like, he was very immediately on that train, as well as a pretty, if not wanting to execute him, easily riled and sent towards wanting to throw a bolt of magic that she has seen kill people before. So not necessarily wanting to kill him, accepting of the consequences of doing such a thing.
I can control the strength of my own magic.
Sure,
but yeah, I completely understand.
Brittany just admitted to using weighted dice. I'm just saying. She said she can control the strength of her. She said she can control the strength of her magic.
I roll on D&D.
Croson says, I think you should ask what she'd do for other people to endanger or / expose herself. For other people as in outside of her own self-interest.
She trends towards evil because she never uses her channel divinity.
I forget it's the thing.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, it's hard for me
I think it also speaks to her. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's hard for me to place Koshik based off of her actions. She did attack a bound and restrained man. She was complacent, and these are all things from recent memory. She was completely complacent with allowing the torture of Aelin to happen, and even defended it in the guardhouse itself.
That's true.
By
I forgot
saying
about that.
yes, he smashed his hand while he was bound, but that man was trying to take me. So that, I think that speaks to kind of how skewed Kaushik's morality might be.
That's me trying to get my bro out of prison.
I think that speaks to your morality.
Listen, I think it speaks to her character, the fact that after Gorham jumped in front of a fucking bullet for Aelin, instead of just leaving it like that, she healed him. But I don't know.
I was very scared you were gonna like shock.
I know everybody was. I don't understand. I'm not gonna
worried.
kill him. He's my friend, even though I hate him.
Yeah, I mean, you did heal Gorham after the fact, but that's because he stepped in front of a bolt that wasn't meant for him.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think you would have.
Would you have healed Aelin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could hurt him again, just like Gorham did.
Yeah, all right.
just
Well,
like
let's
Gorham
go ahead and move you a little bit more.
I'm about to say,
Yeah.
towards evil.
Yeah,
Keep
I
going.
think put me in the bottom right-hand corner of true neutral, so I'm leaning towards chaotic evil.
All right. I think
Because I have a lot of heat of the moment.
All right, guys,
Right.
I gotta start being a murder hobo so I can make the rest of the way over the line.
All right. Who do we do next? We got about 30 more minutes and 4 more members of the party.
Do Crowley. I want to do Crowley so bad.
All right. Here's Crowley. So let's hear it.
Oh, I don't know where I'd put him. I'm just saying.
I really don't know. He doesn't make very many decisions. He's complicit in almost every act anybody has performed.
This is true. Perhaps you'd say
he neither condemns nor condones
Lawful
anything we do. Lawful.
Well, his laws don't apply to everybody else's, right?
What laws? Like on screen, what rules or things has he put? Has he
I don't know.
shown?
For some reason, I get an aura of lawfulness from Crowley, but you're right. He doesn't really.
Prosum says, right there is perfect. Right there in true neutral.
Dead smack in the center of true neutral.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's neither condemned nor condoned any action that has occurred around him.
What I would say for Crowley as far as lawfulness goes is that he pursues the path that he's on nearly religiously, right? He is set onto something. It has set the tone for the adventure. At the very beginning, it was Crowley's goal to hunt down child traffickers, and that has been the main driving force for you guys thus far, right? And Crowley, through talking to the party and getting you guys to follow along, has guided the entire party in this direction of hunting down these child traffickers. I think that may speak to his lawfulness.
There was a selfish. There was, who was it? He was pursuing someone specifically because they were from. What was the name of his country? Because he was pursuing that guy specifically, and that's what happened to lead to him hunting down the child traffickers.
Right.
I won't say that it's not that he heard about child traffickers and it happened to be that guy. He was hunting that guy, and he happened to also be involved in the child trafficking. If I remember correctly.
Right. Well, he's hunting child traffickers without revealing any of his backstory. What he's doing has set the tone for all of this, right? And his actions so far. He is hunting child traffickers, and that he's led you guys all to this path of still doing the same thing, from Reckonmark to Flame Keep, all the way to where you guys are now. So I do think he actually tends towards lawful.
We're all hunting child traffickers at this point, so just trend us all a little more towards good.
Yeah, but it's well, no, not good. I don't think Crowley is good. I just think he trends more towards lawful than he does neutral, as I think he has a main driving force behind him and he sticks to that and does what he needs to find that. So neutral good, Spoons would say. I feel like he's doing good things. The man minds his business. Would I say driven equals lawful? No. Not a lot of the time.
That's why I was thinking he would trend more towards good for what he's doing than lawful, because it doesn't seem like he has a set of rules that he's following. He just is doing
That's fair.
one thing on
That's a fair point.
and it's a good thing. So.
Right. Well, is he doing good things to get there though? The good thing he's aiming for, I guess, you know, that's
like, yeah, because we're gonna say like complicity, like goes into it. He's complicit in the torture and complicit in the near execution of Aelin as well, because he neither condoned nor condemned any of these actions.
right.
But is he doing these things for the greater good? And I think that's what matters, right?
Well, and part of that is we don't know, because he's never said. Because like I was saying, like Matt the player had said he was looking for this guy, and Ian the player knows that, but it has not been voiced in character, but it has still occurred on screen. So like you don't, it once again comes into player versus character perspective, because a character's perspective on somebody does not inform their alignment.
Well, I think we have to do character perspective here for a lot of this, just because we can't really speak to people's backstory that hasn't been revealed yet. Not just for Crowley, but
which makes it rough. But
yeah. But I mean, actions so far in the campaign, like I said, these things can shift. We've said this before. These things can shift. Yeah. So where does Crowley fit now? And I think kind of right here in neutral with Kaushik is probably a decent place for him, as he's
just maybe a little more towards the other corner.
Right.
That was the thing, that Crowley was also getting paid to do this.
Correct.
And
he's voiced that he's doing this for money, not any sort of good action.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I think Crowley has shown y'all that he has a code, in the sense that he's going to do what he needs to do in order to get somewhere. I keep going back to Driven. It's almost like an oath for a paladin, I would say, that makes him stray towards lawful.
It's kind of like one of those, like it's one of those things like I'm gonna say honor among thieves, not necessarily because he's a thief, but because it's like he's loyal to, but once he's bought, he stays bought.
Right.
He's going to complete this task he was paid to do because he said he would do it, kind of thing.
I don't know if I would put him closer to good, more so than anybody. I don't think he's shown any action to show that he's doing something for good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
okay.
I
think
think
that where we've got him is a pretty good spot. True neutral, trending towards lawful, but pretty smack in the center between good and evil.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just the sort of whatever gets it there at that time.
Right.
Maybe more will be revealed. We should do a campaign ending of this as well to see. I'll take a screenshot of this of where we sort of thought they started off at, and we'll compare
we should also have a chart of where everybody put on their alignments at start.
Not everybody put one on their
go back
sheet.
And ask, like, what was your intention for your character's alignment at character creation?
Right.
Because everybody should have put a alignment down at start.
Right.
So perspective versus development and everything, all that fun stuff.
Let's place old Artyom.
Oh, Artyom.
I don't even think he knows as a character.
I mean, I would say,
chaotic good.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. Because, he is impulsive. Like, he just kind of does what he wants.
And he encourages that impulse in others as well.
He does. But he's also pretty, from what we've seen, inherently good dude.
Mm-hmm.
At least he tries.
Right. Goes out of his way to be nice to, Airish.
But he is also complicit in most of the things, not the murder. He didn't want to murder Aelin, but he is also complicit in the robbery and the breaking out of jail, which was the original plan. If Gorham couldn't get out of jail, we were going to break him out.
Sure.
So maybe more towards, maybe leaning towards chaotic neutral. I don't know.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Not for those reasons specifically, but I think for tossing
I was about to say, yeah,
flame keep guard,
Richard
tossing
into-
Dick into the ocean. I
He
think
also didn't really seem to care that Dick died.
right.
Really was just like, well, he shouldn't have been dumb, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
there's a lot of things that Artyom has done that I don't necessarily remember from like before I
Right.
joined the campaign,
Yeah,
and I wasn't as invested in it. So
Right.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, the tossing of Richard, as well as the ambivalence towards his death.
Yeah, I
are
think
fair.
now I can't move him based off of this, but I have to have some speculation as to what our team would do if those guards in Reckonmark, when he had them cornered as a dire wolf, if they wouldn't have surrendered, right? If his intimidation roll wouldn't have been high enough to cause them to surrender, what would our team have done? And I'm not totally sure that he would have just let them go or, kept trying to talk to him.
Right.
What's Artyom's position on the trolley problem?
I think I would put him in between chaotic good and chaotic neutral. Definitely chaotic. I think we can all agree on that. I think
the chaos.
yeah, like he's definitely an agent of chaos without a doubt. I just think RTM he'll murder the shit out of people without a problem, and I think that can I don't know, almost makes me want to put him in just in chaotic neutral, and not even. I think he wants to be good, and that's something he's voiced in campaign. And about the only actions that I've seen from him kind of like making his way towards that is with conversations like Erish, trying to make amends there. But at the end of the day, I think RTM's gonna do what RTM wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think that makes him tend to, if not completely, in neutral.
So neutral, like tending towards good rather than good tending towards neutral, do you think?
Say again.
Like the top right corner of chaotic neutral?
Yeah. Yeah, I
we're
could see that.
opposites.
Yeah, just because he's voiced it in campaign, at least the intention of getting good, of being
Get
better.
good.
That's funny. Of being better. And I don't think Gandalwin's voiced any intention, nor has really any intention of that. But yeah, I think probably the upright hand corner of chaotic neutral fits him pretty good. You guys agree?
I think that's fair.
I think so.
Do Milo. Fucking Milo.
Milo next. All right. I have a hot take, maybe not so hot take for Milo. What does everybody
Shoot.
think?
I got neutral evil on Milo.
Oh, then I don't have a hot take. I would absolutely put him neutral evil.
That's
At
fair.
100% neutral evil. I don't think he strays towards any law or any chaos. He goes with what helps him best, and he makes decisions for either the good of himself or the good of the party. Which so far has included him killing a goblin, although maybe not intentionally. It was the direct consequence of his actions. And then something else as well, and in my mind just blanked.
Let's see.
I think that definitely puts him in the neutral evil category for me.
I'm trying to think of other stuff he's done.
And
We could
his
trend him
reasoning
towards
for it.
true neutral because I don't think his goal is to be a bad person, and I don't think he's a bad person.
Yeah.
character.
That was gonna say, because he did express repentance and guilt over the death of the goblin.
I want to say something about that, about his spiel over the repentance of it. He said, and I quote, "I did what we needed to do. I don't feel good about it, but I did what we needed to do."
That's true. Ends justify the means.
Yeah. He didn't voice that all he said is that he didn't feel good about doing the action. but he still justified it with, I did what we needed to
That's
do.
true. Very true. Very true. A valid point. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neutral. Definitely neutral. Neutral eel is just a very solid spot. I'm trying to think of if like anything that would trend towards any direction.
And then,
If nothing else, I would put him in the middle top of neutral evil, if not halfway between true neutral and neutral evil. But that's just me.
because of the reasons for his actions or the circumstances,
Yes.
why would you put him more tending towards true neutral rather than neutral evil?
Because I don't feel like, again, I don't feel like everything he's doing is out of selfishness. I don't think he's trying actively to be a bad person. Well, I guess that would fall under the neutral rather than the chaotic, or rather than the evil.
Kent does make a good point that he did when we were told that the keeper was possibly in danger, that he just absolutely bolted in that direction.
He does good things. He's done good things. His interests do lie majority in self-preservation, but it's also for the preservation of the party, which is still kind of selfish, I guess.
Well,
But...
yeah, it can be something like if you're doing something for the safety of people that you're close to,
Can I
it still can be selfish. Yes.
One more example of why he should be neutral evil tending towards chaotic evil is while you were in Flamekeep. Yes, he did yeet to the keeper ASAP when he thought they were.
Down the fucking...
The situation was you guys had some documents, nobody had seen you, Milo was invisible at the time. But in the interest of people not finding out that documents were missing, he set an entire dock on fire without regard to anyone's safety or the well-being of the city.
Right.
To cover tracks when nobody had seen you yet.
To be fair, I think Cody has stated that Milo did not think that the entire dock would catch on fire. He thought he would just burn down the shack.
And that leads to the argument of intent over action as well.
Right.
Right.
I think that his intent is why I'd lead him towards neutral, or true neutral, or true neutral. But I don't feel like he'd lean towards chaotic evil. I feel like chaotic evil's a lot for Milo.
And Spoon says, to which I will say, Gorham urged the party to rush to the dock and fight the fire, which he did.
I think everybody kind of was pretty down with that as soon as we saw the smoke.
Well, it was Gorham that spoke up and said, hey guys, follow me, and started sprinting towards the dock. So, and everybody started following. But I think Milo's actions, inherently selfish in every single way. And the intent, he stated that he didn't know that the entire dock would catch fire. I don't know. That seems almost intentionally short-sighted, right? Like, it seems like the wood.
So that's the heat of the moment. That's the chaos.
Perhaps. I don't know. And I don't know if that was because that was what Milo thought, or if Cody didn't realize that the shack was directly resting on the dock.
Well,
but regardless, the events that occurred are the events that occurred.
Right. I think with him lighting the dock on fire, there was no consideration for what could get damaged or who could get hurt. I think the only thing that was considered is I can cover my tracks. That's the only thing. That's the intent you're talking about, and I think that's the intent he had.
I think we can come to
that was not that guy's house. We found him dead in his house later.
Oh,
poor fella.
What is it called when two people will each individually sacrifice something to come to what's the word? Heck,
I have no clue.
Neither. Okay, I'm gonna say, so we both win, perhaps upper right hand corner of neutral evil, or like 75% of the way up in neutral evil to the right side,
tending towards chaotic and tending towards neutral.
Yeah,
tending towards chaotic over neutral and tending towards neutral over evil, right?
Yes.
Or James. I feel that we
Okay.
assault.
Thank you, James, for the, or not James, sorry. Thank you, Crosum, for the word compromise. That is the word. That would have bothered me for literally the rest of my life. So.
All right.
I also feel that.
So I think the only one we have left is
Melgrim.
Melgrim. Oh, you made a mistake himself. Where are we gonna put him?
I have no idea.
I kind of say neutral good.
Neutral good. Let's hear it.
I mean, if anything, he'll like, if you like to argue that he's in between chaotic and lawful and fits into the neutral part of that, is that any kind of rules or code of conduct that he goes by tends to be just him making some decisions informed by Gorham's decisions or the way Gorham reacts to situations. But then he is. It's really hard to not be a barbarian that's at least a little chaotic, right? Like these are people that are kind of ruled by at least some emotion because they use it to fight. And he's been a bit like he will jump to make some like you gotta make some jump decisions. And I think he has. I'm trying to think of specific instances.
I feel like nobody in the party can be smack dab in the middle of a good square. They all have to be leaning at least towards neutral because of the complicity with the things that have been done. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say take him out of neutral good at all. I would just say maybe move him a little more down towards true neutral.
Yeah, I think Melgrim's, or not even Melgrim's actions, but the lack thereof are actually what makes Melgrim a difficult character to place, because in all of his actions, it's been as a follower so far. There's been no action that I think he's taken, and I'm doing my best to rack my brain right now. That is just
completely independent. Exactly.
There's been no independent action to towards any certain direction. So it's hard for me to even place him in good, because these actions that may have been good were just, I think I'd have to place him down here with Crowley and Kaushik, closer to true neutral, tending towards chaotic, because you've said it. I mean, barbarians are driven by emotion. They have to be. They found a way to channel it into an overwhelming power. But I think I have to put him, I would have to argue that he's not neutral good just as of lack of action. That closer to two neutral, tending towards chaotic neutral is where I would put him. What would y'all say to that?
I think that's fair.
I feel like that makes sense, yeah. Crosman says, on one hand, I feel like Mel would do anything the party was up to doing, but would almost do anything to help his brother. So. Yeah,
that's true, and that comes down to that circumstantial thing. So, I mean, if Gorham was in a really bad spot, what would Melgrim do to stop that from happening? I don't know. I don't think I've seen that relationship enough. As crazy as it is, it's been 2 levels and 17 episodes, but I don't think I've seen the relationship enough independently, like apart from the party, to see if what the strength of that relationship and what Melgrim would do.
Perhaps upper right hand corner of true neutral, leaning towards neutral good and chaotic neutral. So chaotic good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Tends towards chaos just because of the inherent nature of his class, but I think the lack of independent action so far, we have to put him in true neutral. Yeah, I don't think there's any, because I'm trying to think of any example of Melgrim acting independently in any certain way. I mean, he's acted independently in the campaign, don't get me wrong, but not in a way that would affect his alignment.
James does have a good point. He said he thinks that the two of them having the same backstory doesn't really help with that, which
doesn't help with taking independent action. Sure, yeah, everyone else has their own goal they want to accomplish, but him and I have the same goal. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see if that strays away at any point.
Right.
You know, where Melgrim's intent can become something else, or even Gorham's intent becomes something else. But I think right now, he's right there. It's interesting though, even though like this is kind of how you would start off with a, you know, a first level party is everybody's in true neutral, and their actions from there would just kind of inform you as to what direction they go, and that we still have 3 characters, 2 levels, and like I said, 17 episodes in, that we still have 3 characters close to true neutral.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I just joined recently, so maybe that's why I'm still there. But
Well, we'll see how it goes, and I'm about to snapshot this in just a second, and then we'll compare it at level 20 whenever we
not just level 20, gotta be end of adventure.
Yeah, end of adventure level 20.
Dusted.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows, we may have to leave someone where they're at just because they can no longer take actions after the TVK.
sad.
Yeah, somebody might get a hold of one of those fucking those weapons, and then or magical items, and that just makes it real easy. Like, that's your alignment, buddy. Sorry.
All right, we're here at that time though, 8:56. Any closing thoughts or words on alignment or anything like that, or anything at all?
Alignment's rough. It's such a hard tool to use because it is very like because the tools they give you to work with is really. And plus, you know, there are more nuanced versions that are a lot better, like with BTM,
right?
With demeanor and nature. So,
right,
it is a bit. That might be something fun to do. Go through VT, like go through natures and demeanors and toss those on our characters, because those can add a lot more depth than just. Okay, well, this action feels kind of chaotic, or this action feels kind of lawful, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Brittany?
Alignment is a fickle tool.
Yeah, I feel a little different after this conversation about alignment, because I didn't know, you know, all of the nuances with it, where it can change. There's like smaller spectrums. You don't have to follow. If you're a lawful good, you don't have to follow your code to a T as your character. It doesn't exactly pigeonhole you as I thought it does, but I do feel like it makes, I don't know, I feel like moral ambiguity makes games more fun. It lends itself to a little bit more purposeful decision making and accountability for your decisions, I feel like, because this decision was Gorham's, not Gorham's alignments, you know, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I don't know, I feel like there's ways to work around being pigeonholed, and it's all good fun at the end of the day.
I mean in the end, you play your character how you play your character, and as long as you are playing them how you intend to play them, and you're not just like wildly bouncing around in your behavior, it doesn't matter. It's just a label. It's just interesting to see, well, now that you've been being this person for a while, where does it fall, generally speaking? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna keep playing Gandalf how I would like for him, like Ian would like for him to be a good guy, but it's not an easy thing for him to do, and might get easier, it might get harder, I don't know. And so maybe he'll end up being lawful good, maybe he'll end up being super chaotic evil, I don't know. But I'm gonna play him how I'm gonna play him, regardless of what he's at. But it is fun to revisit and see like how have they changed, and where does that land them on the alignment chart now. I think is the better use for it.
The way Kaushik's going right now, she wants to be good, but she is relatively morally ambiguous, and I think that's going to be fun for me to pick a direction to build off of and figure out where I want her to go.
I'm just waiting for the moment where Kaushik takes Idril's hand in an alliance and just accepts what she's supposed to become.
Why are you spoiling the campaign for me?
You just hear heavy metal playing in the background, and Kaushik is the BBEG. But
welcome to the jungle.
what? Not welcome to the jungle. I said God. Slow metal. Anyways, all right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We stream every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Monday we do Ghost of Saltmarsh. Wednesday we do this with Tavern Talks, where we talk about various and sundry D&D related things such as alignment. Next week, we're going to be talking about the new UA that was just released yesterday, day before yesterday or day before
It was
yesterday,
yesterday.
with Gothic lineages.
Yes.
So, and there are some really cool things in there. So I'm super excited for Dampier. Hexblood are super cool. So we're going to be talking about those next week. So tune in for that. And then we also stream on Saturdays with our Eberron campaign. That one's at 2 p.m., not 7 p.m. like this in the Salts of Ghost Marsh. Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign.
Oh, salty ghost marsh.
Whole salty Ghost Marsh. Mondays
That might
at
be
7.
a bit salty,
Tavern
wasn't
Talks Wednesdays at 7, and then Eberron Saturdays at 2 p.m. All Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you drop a follow if you have not done so yet. We're going to be doing this again eventually, but tune into this campaign and, you know, maybe you can weigh in as to how you think we did on this. Thank you again, everybody. Make sure you follow these guys on Twitter. Follow this guy on Twitter. Follow us on Twitch, YouTube, podcast. We're out there. And
Yeah.
we're out there. Peace out, guys. Much love.
Bye.